scrap the tax code. Put in a low, flat tax.
The Forbes tax plan is a truly nutty idea.
This is Chicago Tonight, broadcast Thursday, January 25th, 1996.
Good evening, I'm John Calloway, and welcome to Chicago Tonight. For months, Senate Majority Leader Bob Dole has been the front-runner by a large measure in the race for the Republican nomination for president. But in some upcoming key races, the polls indicate that Mr. Dole is now facing a bit of a challenge, not from Phil Gramm or Pat Buchanan or any of the others who've been in the race for months. No, the heat Senator Dole is feeling is from a multimillionaire business magazine publisher named Steve Forbes. And the reasons Mr. Forbes is making inroads have to do with his relentless advocacy of a flat tax idea and his ability to back up that advocacy with millions of dollars of his own money in campaign advertisements in key races like the upcoming Iowa Republican caucus. Why is a flat income tax such an apparently popular idea? Are there aspects of it that we really don't understand? Those are among the questions that we will discuss and debate right after Chicago Tonight correspondent Elizabeth Brackett provides us with some background on how a flat tax would work out for various categories of taxpayers.
It's that time again. Tax forms are being pulled out. Instruction books are being pored over. But this year there is a chorus of voices saying, wait, there is a better way.
I say scrap the tax code. Put in a low, flat tax.
Republican Steve Forbes has crafted an entire presidential campaign around the flat tax, and apparently it's working. It was the face of the multi-millionaire political newcomer that graced the cover of the country's two leading news magazines this week. And he has vaulted to second place in the polls, within shouting distance of Bob Dole, in both Iowa and New Hampshire. But he's far from the only politician talking about the flat tax.
We want the code to be repealed in its entirety and replaced with a single, simplified tax rate system that would have a low personal rate on income.
I want to adopt a simple tax system that has one rate. I want the rate to apply to all income.
It sounds good, but what would it mean for taxpayers? We've made calculations using Steve Forbes' flat tax rate of 17% for a family of 4 at 3 different income levels. Under current law, a family with $25,000 in taxable income, after figuring average itemized deductions and personal exemptions, would owe $559 in taxes. Under the Forbes plan, the same family would pay no income taxes. Under current law, a family with $100,000 in taxable income would owe $12,899 in taxes. Under the Forbes plan, the same family would owe $10,744, a savings of $2,155. Under current law, a family with a taxable income of $300,000 would owe $69,832 in taxes. Under the Forbes plan, the family would owe $44,744, a big $25,088 savings. But would there be a tax cut for everyone?
You have to understand that if we're going to raise the same revenue and we're going to cut someone's taxes, then somebody else's taxes have to go up. So I think this is a very deceptive promise.
Northwestern University economics professor Robert Cohen says the flat tax is really a consumption tax. Since most businesses would pay more under a flat tax, their added cost would most likely be tacked on to the cost of their products.
If you look at the overall burden, you would find that for lower income groups, the tax burden is going to go up because consumption is a larger portion of incomes of the poor than of the wealthy. So if we tax consumption at a proportional rate, which is what these proposals do, we place a higher burden of taxation on the poor than on the rich.
Others say it's the middle class that would be hurt by the Forbes tax plan, primarily because the deduction for mortgage interest rates would be lost.
Without the tax deduction advantage, it's going to lower the selling price of existing homes. And that means that all those people that own homes now and have been building in equity for their homes for retirement are going to lose a good portion of that. Do we want to be a nation of renters or homeowners? It's very clear that property ownership is critical to the maintaining democracy and our economic system. People who own homes, who own property, make better citizens. They vote more. They're more involved in their community.
But Cohen says the mortgage interest rate deduction is one that could be dropped.
I don't see any particular value to subsidizing home ownership. I know homeowners that are irresponsible and people who are a disgrace to the nation. I know people who rent homes who are very fine people, and I'm proud to live near them.
Flat tax rhetoric is hot right now, but it's a long way from becoming a reality. There is one bill calling for a flat tax sponsored by Congressman Dick Armey, but few give it much chance of passage. And the tax bill that is being debated makes no changes in the 5 tax rates that are currently in place. For Chicago Tonight, I'm Elizabeth Brackett.
And now joining us to discuss and debate the flat tax proposals are Robert Genetsky, Director of Economic and Investment Research for Chicago Capital. That's a Chicago-based investment bank. Dr. Genetsky is a former chief economist for Chicago's Harris Bank and is author of the book Taking the Voodoo Out of Economics. Elizabeth Garrett, Assistant Professor of Law at the University of Chicago Law School. Ms. Garrett is an expert on federal budget policy and taxation. Bruce Dumont will help us with the political side of the flat tax debate. He is the host of the nationally syndicated radio program Beyond the Beltway, broadcast Sunday evenings in Chicago on WLS AM radio. And Carl Tannenbaum, Senior Vice President, Director of Treasury Research, and Chief Economist for LaSalle National Bank. And welcome all to Chicago Tonight. Mr. Genetsky, help us, if you would. Give us a kind of good opening commercial on why the flat tax is a good idea.
Well, there are a couple of reasons. One, efficiency in the system. The surveys have shown that we spend about 5 billion hours collectively trying to figure out what we owe the government from our current tax system. If you cost that out at maybe $30 an hour, you're talking about $150 billion wasted trying to figure out how much money we're going to pay to the government. The second thing is living standards. People have complained, including the President in the State of the Union message, about the decline in living standards, and they have declined. The median family with one wage earner has seen about a 17% drop in their family income in today's dollars since 1972. That's a disaster.
Is that family income or is that wage income?
That's wage income.
And that doesn't include a lot of other income, such as entitlements, etc.
This is the median family. So the median family isn't getting entitlements. The point is, during the past 25 years, what has been happening that's been different from our economic history? And one thing that's been happening is that tax rates have gone up and they've created inefficiencies, and I believe those inefficiencies have contributed very significantly to the lower living standards. So a flat tax would reverse an awful lot of problems in our society. And just one last thing I want to add, because it was a very bad misconception that people had from the opening part. What would the effect be on housing prices? I think it's absolutely terrible economics to talk about a flat tax lowering housing prices. In fact, just the opposite would be the case. I'm afraid that well-placed houses would absolutely soar in value as incomes go up. Other houses would increase, but not as dramatically.
We'll come back to the housing issue, I think, in a separate part of our conversation.